During boxing's heyday, there was many boxers that regained their titles, but only one boxer regained his title after 22 years. That was George Foreman. I'm Tony Polito, and welcome to WCAC Boxing Legends.
At age 45, 10 years retired from boxing, George Foreman got back in the ring, eventually to face off with 26-year-old heavyweight champion Michael Moore. I couldn't make a fist anymore, Foreman said, about his time away from boxing. But from 1987 to 1994, George Foreman got himself ready. He fought 29 fights, regained his strength, and restored his prowess in the boxing community. Foreman had a dream, and he made it happen.
Except for that charade in Toronto against the frightful Five. Now Foreman fighting back. Oh, Foreman is in trouble. Lyle caught him with a good left. Now George, now George struck back.
Oh, and look at the left, come up and slice the left. And Jerry Cooney's in big trouble. He's ready to go. And there he goes. Oh, good right hand on the left-hand side of the face of Norton. Norton is a bit stunned as Foreman is teeing off, and it looks like Norton is really...
Atlas, here we go again with the Atlas. Michael Moore is down, goes Moore on a right hand. An unbelievably close...
From beautiful Houston, Texas, I'm here in the home of one of the finest boxers of all time. A gold medalist, two-time world champion, entrepreneur, ordained minister, author. What doesn't he do? Ladies and gentlemen, George Foreman.
Good to be with you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much for taking out the time to spend with us today here in the WCAC Waltham, Mass. We all enjoy you and your past and your future, what you're currently doing. Some of the things I did want to bring up, and I mentioned this to your son when I came in, a lot of people don't know that you had two careers, boxing careers. Your first career from 69 to 77, then from 87 to 94. A lot of people that I talk to that are in boxing said, how can someone come back when you had all the professionals, all those sportcasters saying, there's no way. But I know your story about the enlightening that came over you after the Jimmy Young fight, and it is quite amazing. But I want to maybe get your aspect of how did you do it? Because staying in shape at that age to box is something else to take the hits. How did you do that?
The good thing about it, I was a teenager, and I truly went into boxing for physical fitness. Someone said, you can lose some weight. Still been trying to lose the weight. If you go down to the gym and learn how to box, and of course I wanted to be a little street fighter on the side as a teenager, but I learned to skip rope and hit the bag, and I started, wow, I look good, I look better and better.
Sure did.
Boxing put me on the road to physical fitness. And during the time that I was out for 10 years, I took care of myself.
You did. You did. A lot happened in those 10 years because you stayed fit, but I think the pendulum has shifted in terms of boxing. I mean, during those heydays in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, a lot of people were trying to regain their title. The special thing about you is that you regained it nearly 22 years later, which is magnificent. I mean, I think Larry Merchant and Jim Lafley had mentioned on many different interviews that there's no way that someone can do this. I wanted to just focus on one specific, two fights actually. Your championship fight with Michael Moore. That fight was incredible to me. I've watched that dozens of times, and you probably watched it last night again, right? But you set up a very interesting punch because the first thing, I boxed with Floyd Patterson for 3 years, and I didn't have a chin, chap, so I went down quite a bit. And Floyd Patterson, God rest his soul, he died in '08. He said, it doesn't matter how many times you go down as long as you get up, because he fell down 19 times, but he claims he got up 19 times. So always get up. But it was interesting, he taught me never stay in front of a boxer. And you waited patiently after 10 rounds of taking some of the best punches a 26-year-old can hit you with. But you hit him once, and he was already knocked out standing up, and then you hit him again. That punch laid him out, he never got up. How did you set that up? How did you orchestrate that catalytic movement to get him in front of you like that?
Well, I train, of course, in modern technology. For instance, I lost the title 1974 with Muhammad Ali. I was so bold and so self-assured. I never studied a fighter. I didn't look at any film and decide, look, he's weak here, he's strong there. I was just bold, and even my corner didn't even recommend it. Second time around, watched everything this kid did. Michael Moore, I watched his delivery, where he would be afterwards. I studied boxing. That's just like football players and stuff. And that was the key to it. I knew that if I knocked him down early, first, second, third round, he would run for the rest of the night, and I'd have my problems. He would probably be given a decision just because he was younger. I knew that if I put him down, I'd have to keep him down. And that would happen in the latter rounds only.
Right, because it was difficult. He was winning by points in those rounds. So it was interesting that you knew when to pull the trigger and knock him down and keep him down. So here it is, Jim Lafley saying,
It happened! It happened!
saying the most famous words, it happened, it happened. He should write a book, label it, It Happened, right? But when you won it again, what was your thoughts? That it wasn't surprising to you, I bet.
With all of the strength and training and all the technique I had going for me, the number one point is I prayed about it. And I had self-assurance that I'd gone and said my prayers properly. And I said in my room before I left to myself, to God, I said, if I win this, I never play religious stuff, but I said, if I win this one, I'm going to get down on my knees and pray right there in the ring. A prayer of thanks. And so when it happened, I said, get to that corner and pray.
That's amazing. When that happened, you did have a cluster of fights after that, and you kept it going. Of course, you were at the top of your career again at 45, almost 46. It's interesting. There was another athlete, Jack Nicklaus, who actually came back after retirement and won the Masters at 46. And which one's more impressive, a 45-year-old winning a championship fight or a 46-year-old playing golf? I'll take the golfing. That's easy compared to getting hit, right? I mean, you were getting hit.
I sure wish I had been a golfer. I'll tell you that. Believe me, I wish I had been a golfer.
When you were fighting, and let's talk quickly about Rumble in the Jungle, when you were going after Muhammad Ali, and for the seven rounds, 8 rounds, I looked at this fight and I studied it and I watched you. You were really beating the heck out of him. And the way he was able to use the rope-a-dope, how did that affect you when you were hitting him the hardest you can hit and he was asking for more?
Well, with Muhammad Ali, I wasn't truly beating him. I was trying to get a knockout. Every punch I threw was for a knockout, and I was certain I'd knock him out in a few rounds. No preparation for the latter rounds, no thinking about it may go 10 rounds or something like that. I tried to knock him out. It wasn't that I was giving him a beating. He knew, and after a while, those shots that were trying to knock him out, they just started to wither a little bit and lose their strength and their power. And I didn't have any second, get off a boat, change boats in the middle of the stream. I didn't have that idea going for myself.
Do you think that, when I spoke to Cooney and Larry Holmes, even Chuck Wepner, and Chuck said he was a great boxer. How did you view his fighting style, Ali's?
Well, with Muhammad Ali, his fighting style was survive. He survived. And that's what he won that boxing match with me. He survived. And he threw a right hand, and I probably didn't care about defending myself. Boxing is the art of self-defense. Once you lose that ability to protect yourself, anyone can be knocked out at any time. And I was just slopping around the ring trying to knock him out. Here, look at my chin. And he caught it. Came off the ropes, hit me with a swift, the most swift punch I'd ever been hit with, a 1-2. Straight right hand that stung me. It knocked me down. I was certain I was going to get up. So when I did get up, they called the fight
It was
off.
already timed out. That leads me to, there was one point that you had said there's three major boxing fighters or hard-hitting boxers, Cleveland Williams, Ron Lyles, and Jerry Cooney. How do you accept a punch? Because when you look at these from the outsider, to accept a punch, and I got hit a couple of times by Tracy Patterson, you know, boxing, and only a jab, and the jab hurt. How do you develop a chin for that?
You don't. There you are in the ring. Say you're in the ring with someone like Muhammad Ali, Joe Frazier, all the Chuck Webner even. You get hit and you just think, man, I gotta make it. I just gotta make it. If I can just hit him back, that kind of thing. You don't accept it. You go home with nightmares for a while, especially with Ron Lyle. I haven't forgotten that yet. People ask me, what were you thinking, George? I said, thinking? I don't even remember being there. I remember holding on.
That fight was, if some people haven't seen it, I certainly suggest people to watch that fight because that was a brawl. That was a hard-hitting match for you. Talk to me a little bit about the Fifth Ward. You were brought up in a very unorthodox way, very, very difficult times, and you had to fight to stay alive. And it was interesting in how you went into almost the Peace Corps to work as your father wanted. But talk to me about that Fifth Ward in the best you can.
Yeah, it was the Job Corps. In 1965, I'd heard a commercial. Jimmy Brown, Johnny United, said, if you're looking for a second chance, if you're a dropout, and I was, join the Job Corps, and I did because just months prior to that, I was there robbing people down the street, mugging people, stealing. And it didn't bother me. I could have continued that, but one night the police got behind me and I ran underneath the house to hide from the police. And I knew, and I figured they would send the dogs to sniff me out. And I covered myself from a busted sewage pipe. Covered myself from head to toe so the dogs wouldn't smell me, I thought. And that's when I realized I needed to change my life. And growing up in Fifth Ward, it was typical. There were so many kids doing the same thing. It wasn't like I was the worst. I was just one more bad kid with no direction. When I joined that Job Corps, that's when I got my chance.
Do you think now having children of your own, the education part of it, you didn't formally get an education, but you have another certain type of education that a lot of people don't have, and that really promoted you to do now other things, the entrepreneur, the businesses that you've created, the author, the books that you've written. How do you value a college education today then? Did your mind change from the 70s to now this new era?
I went into boxing, especially the second time. What bothered me more is that I had to make certain my kids were going to college. They were going to get a good education. It's good to be a boxer, a wrestler, whatever you want to be, but it's most important to have an education, to have something to fall back on, and then to have some knowledge about the world around you. And I value an education as much as I would 2 heavyweight championship belts.
Wow. It is important. You see that now. What did you like so much about winning when you won consistently? I mean, at one point you were 38-0 going into the Frazier fight. How did you handle winning?
Winning was so good because you kept doing it. I didn't know anything but win. That can be a fault, of course, because you don't know how to prepare to lose. Losing takes preparation as much as winning. But it was such a thrill, especially when I won the title from Joe Frazier. Wow, what a day in my life. What a night and a whole day and a year in my life to fight for the championship of the world. As soon as you win, you can feel Jack Dempsey, Muhammad Ali, Jack Johnson, even John L. Sullivan. They all just haul up on your back and you feel them for that second and you walk around with such pride. What a spectacular time. in winning the championship fight.
Well, I'm sure you felt like that a lot at times in your life, not only with just with fighting, but the birth of your children as well. That's a big win. When you won the gold medalist, that gold medal, do you still have that today?
Yeah, well, with the gold medals, I put them into the historical societies and museums. I wanted to make certain that all those championship belts and gold medals should be looked at by other young people who can dream, so they can dream.
Now, educate me. When you win a title, and you win the title from Joe Frazier, you get his belt. Or do they develop a belt for you?
Every champion gets his own belt.
Okay.
And once you get the belt, you got your name on it, it stays with you.
It stays with you?
Yeah, you lose the title, but then every champion gets his own belt.
So you still have your belts, or they're in museums as well?
Yeah, they are in museums as well.
The education part of it leads me to the George Foreman Youth Center. At one point, there was a movement that you had to make more money, and you did not want to touch your children's education. That was almost like ignited you to go into your second career. Is that a true statement?
Well, I literally had run out of money.
You did?
Yeah, I went back to pure and simple. I was in a terrible state as far as finances.
Really?
I lost a lot of money, and a lot of athletes don't understand. We think it's going to just continue to come. Money will continue to come. And I looked up one day, bankrupt is not the word. I was broke, and I had to get money. I had to make certain my kids were taken care of, and most importantly, to run my George Foreman Youth and Community Center.
Which is very important.
Yeah, which I had to go back. That's the reason I literally had come back into boxing to earn money.
So when you did this and you gained more money from these fights, the efforts that you put into the youth center are for what types of kids?
We wanted a place there. I wanted a place where the kids could come and hang out. Once I stopped by this place my brother was running, and mother gave me a look to please help my son. And I was preaching with my tie and everything. I said, no, I'll send him to the church, that kind of thing. And this kid would end up shooting a storekeep, and the storekeep shot his friend. Lives devastated because I didn't want to be associated with sports anymore. But I took my life savings, some of it, and started the youth center. And most importantly and most expensively was the setting up the foundation in the first place. And so this setting up this youth center was going to be a chance for me to give back what I had forgotten. You know, all the life you keep winning, you buy a swimming pool, you get a Rolls Royce, but you forget about those kids. Now I had a chance to open up this place, and it literally cost me all my money, my life savings.
And not only that, but you could have gotten hurt. You could have gotten really hurt. It's a youthful sport. Where do you think boxing is going today now? How do you feel about you know, Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury? How do you view boxing now?
Yeah, especially heavyweight boxing, I think it's in a good state now.
You do? Okay.
With the Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury, they're big guys.
Yes.
They'll hang around for a long time, and then the argument, can a good big guy beat a good little guy?
Yeah.
It puts that back to a thing. You know, Floyd Patterson was heavyweight champ of the world, and that guy never was a good, clean 200-pounder.
Right.
Joe Louis was never a good 200-pounder. But they beat giants back in their day. People don't realize that. Canera and all these big guys who were champion of the world were giants. Max Baer, these were big guys. So I'd like to see even size get back and prove, like that Mike Tyson. He never was that big, but he was the heavyweight champion of the world, and he beat giants. So I think boxing is in a good state. Got arguments going on. Who can beat this guy?
Yes.
We got an American who's champion of the world now, Deontay Wilder. I'm really encouraged now.
That's great. I'm glad to see that. So you still watch it. It still enlightens you, and still
I still watch boxing. I enjoy boxing.
Well, speaking of what you enjoy doing, and I know the ordained ministry is a big part of your life, because after the Jimmy Young fight, there was almost a light switch that went on for you.
That's a good way of putting it.
Talk to me about that.
Well, of
It's a
course,
very
I had an
interesting story.
experience, but in a split second, I had this vision. I was dead and alive again in the dressing room, and under my feet, over my head, all around me was nothing but a dump yard of sorrow. And I got upset. I said, I don't care if this is death. I still believe there's a God. And I didn't believe in religion at all. I didn't bother with that. When I was rescued from nothing, alive in that dressing room, I looked and saw blood on my hand and my forehead. I started screaming, Jesus Christ is coming alive in me. I didn't believe in that. And I think they petted me so much, took me to intensive care.
Wow.
And my life changed. For 10 years, I couldn't make a fist. I stayed away from boxing. And I started being known as Reverend, brother, doing weddings and funerals. I was ordained in '69. And that took over my life.
It did, didn't it?
It did. It took complete over. And to this day, it is still in
Well,
control of my life. One experience.
It's a big part of your life today.
Yeah.
Wednesdays are the only days that you can do an interview, right? You're pretty much at the church quite
Yeah,
a bit.
I do a lot of church work. You know, I got a plain, simple ministry, and I'm an evangelist by trade. That's what I really am. I travel all over the world telling that same story.
It's incredible, isn't it? When you share that story, you probably still get excited sharing it because you want other people, from the reading I've done, you want other people to succeed. You don't want them to take the route of sorrow or pain or stealing or being in trouble. Make something of your life. You are the epitome of what people ought to do and way to think. They say attitude is altitude. Your attitude was quite different than any other 40-year-old going into a boxing ring. When you were boxing and coming back, who was really a challenged fighter for you? And were you scared at any point in time?
I wasn't scared when I came back into boxing because I knew I had to do what I had to do. And what would frighten anyone is that you're not in condition to do it. I was able to get out there and get that road work back in. I skipped it up from 3 miles as the original champion to 10 miles on my comeback because I was so big. I'd gained so much weight. I had to run. And I knew that beforehand. Everybody studied, take George to the latter rounds and you can get him. He wasn't in shape, you know, the rope-a-dope with all that. So I had to dispel all that by being in better shape the second time. I never was even knocked down the second time around.
Yeah.
I was in good shape. And so the conditioning eliminated the fear.
That's another direction where I like to talk to you about is that, do you have a team of trainers working with you during this time? And
I was fortunate to have a good trainer. Charlie Shanks, my original training companion and trainer before I left boxing, was with me along with the great Archie Moore. Archie Moore contributed a lot of things. He gave me some things to think about. He had been an eldest boxer himself, so he knew what it would take. And we spoke about bag punching technique, and he wouldn't tell me about his style, but he really showed me about hitting the punching bag, which was what I needed.
And you learned a lot. You were a sparring partner with Sonny Liston for a brief period of time, correct?
That's right. Sonny Liston and I were good friends.
You were, huh? Underrated boxer, wasn't he?
Liston, of course, he had a short reign as heavyweight champ of the world,
Yeah.
so that wasn't a long time for anybody that didn't know him well. And a lot of what was known about him, it was mostly by he said, she said. He didn't get a chance to explain himself that much. But he was a good friend of mine, and boy, did he have a magnificent left jab. I used to feel it in the gym daily.
That's incredible. That's what a few other boxers had said to me, is that the pain of training should be harder than the fight.
That's true.
And it's amazing that you've gone through that, and you're a handsome man, for crying out loud. You look great for,
Boy.
you're what, 52 now?
38.
Forgive me, 38. It's a really wonderful thing. I can see how maybe kids look up to you, and there are sports figures today that kids look up to, but then the sports figure's not ready for success. What's your definition of success? How do you look at it now, and has it changed over time?
Well, I think that success is something that just keeps moving. I get up in the morning ready to do something new and to achieve something. That's success for me. The morning you wake up and say, I've got it made, I think that's disaster. Can't call that success at all. You can't define it because it just is, what is the word when it's in motion all the time? It keeps continuing. I wake up in the morning and ready to achieve. That's success.
Your daily activity when you get up in the morning, do you hit the gym first? Do you have a big breakfast?
I got the gym right there in my room, and I love to eat. And I realize if I'm going to really enjoy my food, here's the gym. I got about 3,000 square feet of gymnasium.
Wow.
And I'll hit it, work out in the bags. If I don't have any swelling where I've hurt myself in the gym, I got a big bag, treadmills, everything ready to work right in my house.
That's wonderful that you keep on going.
You keep doing it.
I'm a big fan of Jack LaLanne and the art
Yeah.
of calisthenics and the push-ups and the pull-ups and things of that nature. It's a way of staying fit, but more importantly, your mind. You've taken a lot of shots in the past, and it doesn't look like you were never ever a boxer.
Boy, that's the one thing about boxing. To say you've gotten into boxing and have not gotten hit is like saying you stepped out in the rain and didn't get wet.
Yeah, right, right.
I've met a lot of great punchers, and let me tell you, they put their hands on me.
Yeah.
And but it's a thrill to remember those things.
It is,
I
isn't
love
it?
The fact that I was a boxer, I like that.
Of course you do. You worked so hard for it, and what you have, and you know, as a leader of your family, you want to portray that to your family. I mean, I see the portrait up here of all the beautiful kids you have, and you really are blessed with
Yeah,
a lot.
A lot of family.
It's interesting, and I think a lot of people, just society, can learn from this. But something that's so devastating that happened to you, losing in the 8th round with Ali, was really the best thing that could have happened to you. Do you
know,
do you
I
agree with that?
complain about that too, because when I was knocked down in Africa, the count was 8, and I got up. They stopped the fight. You know, my manager told me to get up. They waved the fight off. I could have gone more, but in hindsight, Muhammad Ali could have really did more damage to me if I'd gotten up and fought, because he was smart. So I agonized over that for years, 10 years, 20 years, and all of a sudden, I got stronger and stronger and became champ of the world. I think if I had won that boxing match, it would have worked against my whole life.
I agree with you.
I'm not happy to lose, but I'm happy things has gone the way they've gone.
I think that the way that shift in your life happened, and then the opening of God coming into your life after the Jimmy Young fight, although we didn't see it at the time,
Yeah.
it's the best thing that could have happened to
It's a
you.
great thing. And then look back at it, I fought the great Muhammad Ali.
You did.
That means a lot to me.
And he fought the great George Foreman. I mean,
You know, and those things I'm happy about.
Yeah.
You know, because everybody said, man, what about Muhammad? And I don't even have to ask questions. I have the answers right here. We struggled in the ring. I can hear him right now. That all you got, George? Show me something, George.
that's what he would say to you in
Yeah,
the ring.
he was in the ring now. We're struggling. He's doing more talking and I'm doing all the fighting.
Incredible.
I can remember that. And it's a thrill. I'll be able to tell my great-grandkids
You will.
about it.
How many grandkids do you have now?
We have 13 grandchildren right now, 13, and 2 great-grands.
2
Yeah,
great-grandfathers.
I've already started on another generation.
Good for you. Any of them interested in boxing?
I had one son to box, and even a daughter to box, and that passed, so no one else is interested yet. I'm hoping maybe one of my grandsons will do it.
Would do it. And you know, after your retirement, your second retirement, you didn't feel coaching or training was something that you wanted to do? Was that something on your plate, to be a cornerman?
Oh, I'd like to do that. As
You
a matter
would.
of fact, it takes a lot of time, and that's what I just don't have a lot of time.
Right, right.
And so whoever's going to work with a kid in boxing need to be with them 24/7.
Mm-hmm.
And that's probably my shortcoming. I don't have that much time, and it would be robbery to take someone under your wings, and yet they're always flopping, falling out of your wings. You need time. So maybe in the years to come, I'll find more time.
That would be interesting to see you on the other side of the ring, looking from the outside in and coaching a potential boxer champion.
Biting off all my nails.
Right? I can imagine. When you came back into boxing, who helped you promote it?
Yeah, so Don King had already passed, and Don King was so excited about Mike Tyson. He'd seen me, it was like, hi, George. He wasn't interested, and I didn't have any promoters. I started this George Foreman self-promotion. I'd been on the scene long enough. I'd learned from Dick Sadler, who had learned from Doc Kearns, all these people who had put together, and Archie Moore. I had all that knowledge within me, and with the hard work, I started to construct a comeback all the way back, to the point that I became when I became heavyweight champ of the world, I was also manager of the year.
Oh, really?
I got a
Because you
trophy for being manager of the
because you were
year and a boxer of the year.
Because you were managing yourself.
Yeah, and the boxer of the year because I knew what I was doing. Not because I was smarter, just that I was older.
Older,
I was older
wiser.
than everybody.
Yeah.
So of course we met up and teamed up with Bob Arum, and
Yep.
Bob Arum had his
Yep.
machinery going too. That all worked together for me.
It's the career is so much different than other boxers that I've spoken to. I asked Larry Holmes this question, and I think you would know the answer to it. But what's your problem now today? Do you see any problems that you have to solve with just with other individuals in your life? Is people coming to you? Are they bothering you? Or they want more of your time? Which side of the fence are people pulling you more to the ordained ministry, or do you see it more in sportscasting that people are pulling you over and trying to get you back into sports?
I like every bit of it. I wish if there was something I could complain about, then I could probably distinguish which is. But everything is all so nice. I love this life that
I bet you
have,
do.
This George Foreman life. You know, I'm called and to do interviews with people like yourself. I'm jumping up, man. I'm still somebody.
You are.
They still want me, and so I'm alive. I get a chance to
It's
put powder all on my head. You know, so I'm really happy about it. And then, of course, I got the youth center. I got to struggle because you got to constantly raise money for the youth center, and that keeps me hype. I know I can't sleep like I want to. Then, of course, every now and then I'm called to do some comments about boxing. That keeps me sharp and to remember the past so I can apply it to the present. And the preacher, I'm in church. I have to study and put those sermons together.
You do?
Oh, yeah, you got to remember those words. Have you ever gone through the King James Version of the Bible and try to pronounce some words there? That's when you realize you're still in school forever.
Right, right.
And so, and then my physical fitness, raising my children. Oh, that's all. I have a job.
You do.
Plural.
That's it. You do have a
Many
job.
jobs, huh?
Right. Good for you. How often you're at the youth center with the ministry as well?
Yeah, and I'm in about 3 times a week with the church, 4 times a week with the church, and of course the youth center when I can.
Wow.
Most importantly, I just got to go and get their fun so that every kid can walk through there and not feel obligated. He's got to do anything, especially not hear any of my sermons. I want kids to be free to come there, work out, and go home. They don't have to take away anything. But hey, I didn't go to jail today.
That's so important, and you know you have that experience behind you where you can actually maybe guide people to it. Early in the interview, I brought this up, but some people are not ready for success, and you embrace it, and then you show others how to live it. Because let's bring up Mike Tyson's name. When he made it, he lost it faster, quicker than when he made it. Now he's doing okay. Have you spoken to him lately? Is it?
Not a lot. I'm just happy about him. I see him on internet sometime or television interviews, and he's laughing and smiling. I love that.
Yeah.
He deserves that.
He
because
does.
that's a portion of success right there. To be able to smile about your past, that's success.
That is, indeed it is. You know, during the fights, and there were some epic fights that you had that were really, it's worth watching a couple of times. You were interested in, when you came back, you contacted Jerry Cooney and you said, hey, let's get it on. And during that fight, of course you had mentioned this with, I think on David Letterman too, that there's 3 major punches. Who hit you the hardest?
Boy, I've been hit with punches, and the ones you never forget is that you get hit so hard, you don't know what you're doing. You lose control of your legs and your body just for seconds. I did that with Run Loud. He hit me, and I didn't feel that. It's like, what happened? And the same with Cooney. He hit me with a left hook, and I said, oh no, not again.
Wow.
I don't forget those punches. 2 punches I've never forgotten. Of course, Muhammad hit me with a shot, but I was running into it, and I got knocked down. I tried to keep myself, and I was able to get up. But those 2 punches, Cooney and Lyle, those were the punches
Really?
that make me think.
Did for 1 minute, and you just almost touched on it, when you thought about it and said, man, did I do the right thing? Did I do this for the right reasons? That crossed your mind, didn't it?
Yeah, when you get hit like that, you wonder, what am I doing in this sport? I mean, what am I doing? Because I had already lost to Muhammad Ali when I fought Ron Lyle, and I had all kind of excuses for my loss. Now, Ron Lyle hit me and I'm laying this. What am I going to tell them now? What am I going to say now? What are they going to ask me now? So you get up, because I don't have anything to say.
That's true.
Big question.
And in the fight with Holyfield, that was one of the what a brawl. That was a younger man with a really kid in the ring, right? You're still young going into the fight, but unwanted in so many ways in terms of your age, but you still did it. You went 12 hard rounds with Holyfield, and the punches were going back and forth as if you guys were teenagers.
Well, here he comes. George is putting together a rally here. Oh, and a little short chopping uppercuts. The overhand right. Holyfield's got to move. He's got to get out of there. Amazing performance. Oh, a right hand. Holyfield. Oh, a left uppercut.
I think there's another one. Of course, he receives two back.
Evander Holyfield is some kind of guy with heart.
Yeah,
if you try to ask me to describe Evander Holyfield, H-E-A-R-T, heart.
He does.
The guy's got heart. I mean, he doesn't, nothing physical about him. There's nothing really over intelligent about him. But the heart he had was like that of a at least 20-foot giant.
Yeah, he reminded me of maybe a duplicate of Ken Norton, just structurally and how he was built.
Yeah.
He fought differently though and I want to touch on that. Ken Norton fought with a double-armed, and whereas Holyfield fought more traditional. What was your favorite way of fighting? Was it the same throughout the 70s, or did it change in the 80s? Did you change up the way you position yourself to boxers?
I had to change a lot especially the 70s. I had swift stop punches, parrying punches, and I'd parry and hit you at the same time. When I came back the second time, the guys I tried to parry and they'd hit me. I wasn't fast enough to carry that on, so I had to stop that and kind of set my defense where no fanning, but set it in position to block the shots and be ready. Then later on with Michael Moore, no one noticed. I stopped that and just kept my hand traditionally up, and that's how I beat him. I didn't go to cross arm. But to say I have a favorite way of fighting, I didn't have.
You didn't
That's
have.
what I had to do. What I had to do.
Right. It's quite impressive. Do you think we'll ever see this again, that someone comes back? You got to have the want, you got to have the desire, and you mentioned heart a couple of times, but you have to have something to come back in this sport. Whereas a Brett Favre in football, he can retire and play quarterback for this team or that team, but boxing is a little different because you're getting hit with no helmet on.
Rough sport. And for me, I don't want to see a fighter come back.
You don't?
After, for 10 years fighting for the title, 20 years later, I hope it never happened. But you're going to have to find a way to find another profession to kind of supplement boxing too, because you can make $100 million in boxing today and be broke tomorrow.
And we've seen it.
That's what anyone, in any profession, big companies go bankrupt. Boxers, we all have to understand that that's today. Tomorrow is something else, and you must be prepared for tomorrow. And you can't do it with boxing.
No.
You just can't do it with boxing. You shouldn't do it with boxing because your head is a precious place.
It sure is.
You don't want to be just being punched your whole life. No one needs that. There's so many different ways of being in shape. You can be physically in shape or hitting shape. You were in hitting shape. Who was your partner, your sparring partner in your second career? I had so many.
You were hurting them most of the time, I bet.
And I'd hire a lot of guys. And I really concentrated on my defense. I didn't really hurt a lot of guys in the gym. I never did.
You didn't?
it was that punching bag where I got my power. I'd hit that bag and I'd really get the time and the rhythm for the punching bag. I didn't care too much for hurting guys in the gym, mainly because if you find a good sparring partner, you will need him again the following week. If you beat him up, you just, you're not doing yourself any favors. But there was one kid locally, Brent Bowers. He would volunteer himself to me. Every day he tried to beat me up, no matter what. Sometimes I'd hit him hard. I said, that'll stop him. The next day, he'd come after me again.
Wow.
Brent Bowers. But other than that, no specific sparring partners.
Wow.
I even like to work out with the little guys.
Right, just getting in there is movement. Before we go, I want to just briefly talk about your George Foreman Butcher Shop, because I think you launched this, what, a year ago?
Yeah, it's been about a year and a half.
Year and a half. How's that going for you?
It's going really good.
Yeah.
They're picking up good customers, and the meat goes all over the country.
So talk to me very briefly about this butcher shop, because I'm gonna purchase some stuff on it as well.
Yeah, the George Foreman Butcher Shop is a chance to, we call it a real live butcher shop that you can get meat properly cut the way they used to do in the olden days. You go to the butcher shop, even got it wrapped in white paper, like just as if you'd gone to the old butcher store. And I like the steak, of course. And there are many varieties of steaks. I even have the most popular is the variety pack, where there's hamburger, little sausages, and what do they call wieners, hot dogs, and pulled pork.
Wow.
Anything you want to put on your table, delivered right to your door in a couple of days.
Wow. Well,
That's what I call
I'm gonna
a
check
butcher
this out
shop.
too, because I'm proud that you just keep on going. The grass does not grow underneath your feet. From the bottom of my heart, Champ, I want to thank you very much. I think I could spend 28 days with you and not really get it all. You have a wonderful, interesting life, and I think you portrayed that to the public, the amount of respect you have. I was telling your son earlier, the amount of respect you have from other boxers. I mean, Jerry Cooney, he was speechless, and before I interviewed him, he just adores your relationship, and I think you were on his radio show back in October.
Cooney's a swell guy.
He's a real special man.
Got a lot to offer.
Yeah.
I'm happy to have him in my life.
Well, I'm happy that you took the opportunity, because we're in a small public access TV, and people are starting to understand the heyday boxers and what they're currently doing, and what Cooney's doing, what Larry Holmes is doing, what you're doing is a testament to getting old doesn't mean sitting in front of the TV and letting your body go to waste.
And Larry Holmes got a statue of himself. Can you believe that? I think I'm going to go out there and put me some mold and shape me up one.
You should have one, right?
Out in the yard, the only.
Yeah.
That's the only place you can keep pictures of.
Right. I thank you very much for inviting me to your home. It was very special. I'd like to keep in touch with you, and I'll send you guys a clip of this too. But Champ, it was a pleasure.
Thank you.
God bless you. Thank you so much.
A lot rested on George Foreman's 1987 comeback. He was broke and desperately wanted to save the George Foreman Youth Center, an organization that keeps youth off the street and out of trouble. To do so, Foreman had to regain the heavyweight title he initially won in 1973. And to echo sports commentator Jim Lafley, it happened. Big George Foreman regained his heavyweight title at 45. No other boxer has done that, and he didn't stop. Since the end of his boxing career, Champ Foreman, now an ordained minister and author, has kept his youth center running, launched an online butcher shop, and funded his own church, Church of the Lord Jesus. With honor, Champ Foreman is inducted into the World Boxing Hall of Fame and International Boxing Hall of Fame. He also is the 8th greatest heavyweight of all time. Big thanks to George Foreman and his family for everything they do and for everything they do for boxing.